In episode 159.
2019 became like my work travel zenith. It was just, I was out every 2 or 3 weeks. I was going somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of empowered by talking with Giselle on the episode, I decided to have a look about what was available on my trips. And I headed over to your nation's capital, um, and found a transformation artist photographer
Ooh.
in Tacoma Park, Maryland. And I got chatting with her and uh, ended up deciding to book. So I get home, I continue this kind of dressing stuff, and our bedroom door had like two locks on the door. It had a slide bolt and a thumb turn
Mm-hmm.
on the handle. And so when I dressed, I would lock the door. Um, but this one time, I've only got like a long leather skirt and some boots on, and I'm watching Drag Race, and I must have only locked the thumb turn on the door because all of a sudden my two sons burst into the bedroom, recorded a voice message to Giselle.
Oh.
Um, and I was recording this message about how I was feeling, and I said, I'll check in later. I was talking about what I was wearing, what I'd chosen to wear, and all of those things. Um, and I was an absolute bundle of nerves.
Did you send
Uh,
it to Did you send it to
no,
her?
no,
No?
because
Oh man.
I neglected to follow up on the way out.
Welcome to the CrossYAAS Podcast, the podcast that says YAAS to cross-dressing sexuality and gender. I'm your trans woman host, Billie, former guest in episode 48 and several others, and longtime contributor and all this other stuff. In this episode, I chat with Sophia Less, a returning CrossYAAS guest that was one of the earliest contributors to the podcast, formerly known as Stiletto. Maybe still is. I forgot to ask. Maybe I think. Oops. But we'll figure out if I did. if you keep listening. Um, anyway, this is another two-parter. She had so much to say because so much has happened to Sophia since the last time she was on the podcast. And if you need a refresher, she was on episode 25. So maybe check it out before listening to this episode, or maybe even after, whichever works best for you. Are you ready to hear her story?
YAAS! YAAS, YAAS, YAAS. YAAS, 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 YAAS.
CrossYAAS Podcast with Giselle Mirasol
And Billie.
YAAS! YAAS!
Yes, 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 yes.
YAAS, YAAS, YAAS.
Hey everyone, it's Billie with the CrossYAAS Podcast. We got a return guest from one of the early episodes. I think it was episode 25. Is that correct? Yeah. Sophia's nodding her head. That is correct. You may not know her as Sophia. I think she went by Stiletto. Great name. I hope you're still using it. I guess not, though, because you're going by Sophia now. But you can maybe delve into that a little bit later. So, Sophia, if you'd like to introduce yourself or reintroduce yourself, I guess, and in like
Yes.
quality HD audio format.
Yeah. Hey, Billy. Thank you for having me back. First off, props for the awesome job you've been doing picking it up from Giselle's hiatus. It's so cool to have you keep releasing these podcasts and more chats and everything. I'm loving it.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
So
Thank you.
I go by Sophia on Instagram, mostly because it's kind of my idea of a possible drag performer name. I really so like when I started it, I just had this idea, and I thought I'm gonna go by Sophia Less, as two words, but it feels more sort of empowering to me to be fearless. But it's a traditional pun for a for a drag performer. So on Instagram, I'm at Sophia Less Drag, and that's where most of my femme online stuff is now. I kind of kind of left Reddit behind for a while, where I'm Stiletto Shoe on Reddit. Yeah, so like I was episode 25 back in, the episode was released in July 2019, so it's like 3 years.
That's a long
Um,
time.
yeah, and a lot has happened since then, and to do with this stuff and not to do with this stuff, it's been a bit of a tumultuous few years for me. So I heard your recent chat, and I think you said at the end, if anyone's got a story to share, then hit you up. And I thought, well, yeah, maybe this would be interesting. I'm at a kind of quite an interesting place right now, but I think, yeah, it might be quite cool to sort of talk about some of the things I've done.
Yeah, I'd
Since
love
the
to hear
podcast.
it. I'd love to hear it.
So like it was 2019, and at the time when I spoke to Giselle, I think I just started trying to carve out one night a week to stay in our bedroom away from the kids, dress if I wanted to, but just have a kind of girly femme night each week. Just try and take that time. And one of my outlets for that was I discovered and started watching RuPaul's Drag Race. Like on Netflix, they had every single episode ever.
Big fan.
Right? So I started from the real start. So I've watched everything to the point now where I'm struggling to fit it into my schedule because there's like 8 episodes of different seasons a week at the moment.
So I've kind of stepped away for a couple years just
Right?
because I don't know, I delved into it like really hardcore a couple years ago, and I think I'm so far behind I wouldn't even know where to start back at. Maybe I just need to start back at square one.
Maybe. Yeah. Go back to that. There's terrible production quality of season 1.
Yeah, maybe skip that up. Maybe skip that season.
And so I was having a lot of fun, and 2019 became like my work travel zenith. It was just I was out every 2 or 3 weeks. I was going somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
and I kind of empowered by talking with Giselle on the episode. I decided to have a look about what was available on my trips, and I headed over to your nation's capital, and found a transformation artist photographer in Tacoma Park, Maryland, and I got chatting with her and ended up deciding to book. So I got my work stuff out of the way, managed to wangle an extra day in the city on my flight times, and headed out to her place. She's Elizabeth Taylor Makeovers. Shout out to her. She's amazing. So if you're ever in the area, she's brilliant. I was a complete bag of nerves, really scared by the whole thing. So I didn't know where I was. I used the train. I can't remember what the train's called in DC, but I used the train to get out there.
Train works.
And figured I probably don't want to use this on the way back because it didn't feel like 100% that safe. So I kind of was plotting my route back using the bus.
That seems, in my mind, that kind of seems less safe.
Right. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm above ground. It just feels a bit safer.
Okay,
It's kind of weird.
I get that.
Easier to run away. And she did a great job. She made me feel really at ease. I took my own clothes because I was just going more for a makeup transformation because that's always been one of my biggest struggles. And I didn't really have a firm plan what to do afterwards. And she kind of pushed me to go out as I was, that I look great, and just go and enjoy being outside.
How did she push you into going out?
Just, I guess she gave me a lot of confidence. She was really, what's the word? Supportive. built me up a lot, and not in an artificial way. She was just very, very authentic and supportive, and I left almost in tears because I was so euphoric.
You don't want to do that. You're going to mess up your makeup.
Right, exactly. So I was like, I have to stop this. I have to get out into the world because otherwise I'm going to cry too much. So I think she used waterproof stuff. So I went out and I tried to catch the bus. Got on the bus. It was full. Ended up standing. It was August in Washington, so it was, for me, crazy, crazy hot. So I didn't take all my kind of shapewear that I would normally wear to feel super, super good. I was already in kind of pantyhose and a dress, and it was already too hot. So I kind of had a weird.
That sounds too hot to me already.
So I kind of
too hot.
I got a kind of weird look off a guy on the bus, an older guy. I couldn't decide whether he had clocked me or he was just a weird guy. I got the wrong bus. I ended up in the wrong place. I landed in DC, downtown DC, a bit late. And yeah, I got off the bus. I found kind of the main sightseeing area. And I just kind of walked around. I walked past the monument and various museums. And I was on cloud nine. I had a fantastic time. Took a few pictures. Not enough. I regret not taking more pictures. And then I started making my way back to my hotel, and I realized I don't know that all my colleagues have left already.
Oh.
And I don't know a back way into the hotel or like a service elevator or anything. So I got a bit panicked and I was boiling hot. And I'm on my way back. It's getting dark. I'm getting a little bit nervous. And I am trying to find somewhere that's got a bathroom that I can change. In the end, I'm massively grateful because I'd heard various stuff about, bathroom politics in the US. I didn't quite know where Washington, D.C. stood on that. So I'm thinking what I need is a single occupancy bathroom, right? Which I think is the solution to everybody's problems. But eventually I find this little Greek mini restaurant takeout place. And thankfully they have a single occupancy bathroom. I didn't have any makeup remover, so I must have washed my face 7 or 8 times to get everything off, get changed.
Face is probably all red after rubbing it all off. Hey, why's your face all red? You don't need to know.
Thankfully, nobody kind of clocked that, a person went into the bathroom looking one way and came out another way. I bought a baklava dessert and with a lot of relief made my way back to the hotel.
Oh, nice.
So that was a fantastic experience, honestly. Really had a good time. But I kind of left feeling like that might be a one-time thing. I needed a real pro to do that for me. So I get home, I continue this kind of dressing stuff, and our bedroom door had like 2 locks on the door. It had a slide bolt and a thumb turn on the handle. And so when I dressed, I would lock the door. But this one time, I've only got like a long leather skirt and some boots on, and I'm watching Drag Race, and I must have only locked the thumb turn on the door because all of a sudden, my 2 sons burst into the bedroom to change the trash in the room. So they were doing a house-wide trash pickup and go from every room. And my world caves in at that point. So it's my safe space. I mentioned on my previous podcast that we had no plans to tell the boys to reveal anything to them. And I am in just complete shock. My eldest son clocks everything immediately. My youngest son will not stop talking about whatever's going on in his head. So I'm not sure whether he clocks me or not. And I just say, could you please exit? I had planned to lock the door. Please, could you leave? And they were really, really slow to go. And I say, I know that my eldest son spotted everything. My heart is pounding in my chest. I don't know what I'm going to do, because it was not on the plan. We hadn't prepared them. We hadn't prepared me.
How do you prepare them? How would you prepare them?
I don't know. Probably not dressed. So they had some adjustment time.
Okay.
But what had happened, like, in the background, is about 6 or 7 weeks prior to this event happening, my eldest had started talking to my wife about this very subject and how he would like to try girl clothes.
Interesting.
But completely separate to me and anything that I've got or done or anything. They had absolutely no idea. In fact, when I recovered and we were having a proper discussion about it, he said to me, "Did he give me the idea?" So he was kind of really confused by it all. But yeah, they wanted to start dressing a little bit. They wanted a few items. It was curiosity, typical kind of pubescent hormones, identity crisis, all of those things. It's a transitional point for everybody, but it was first my eldest, quickly followed by my youngest. Both wanted to do this, and then my youngest kind of just said, "No, it's not for me. I don't like it. I don't want to do it anymore." Okay, fine, great. If you've tried something, you've explored it, that's not a problem. So we encourage them to just feel supported, and I tell my eldest, I understand, like probably nobody else, how you're feeling. So if you want to talk about it, you don't need to be secret. You don't need to guard yourself. We can talk about whether you want to be more public about it or not, which he didn't and still doesn't. But
sorry, you're kind of being outed right now. Sorry.
Yes,
you're outing him a little bit. Sorry. It's okay. This is a safe space. A safe place.
Well, I'm reasonably anonymous, right? So
yeah, it's a safe place.
So anyway, yeah. So he kind of he just wants to be very private about it, which I completely respect.
It's understandable.
Yeah. And so later on, we kind of talked about it, and I said, "Look, how would you feel if I wore some of my favorite clothes outside of my bedroom, if I could move around the house a little bit freer?" And they initially said, "Yeah, cool, whatever you want." So I would maybe put on a pair of shoes, or I'd wear a skirt. I wouldn't put makeup on, or a wig particularly, So, but then they both kind of talked to my wife and said, "We don't want Dad to do that anymore," which was pretty tough for me. It was pretty hard to get some freedom and then feel some judgment. Yeah, get it taken away.
Get it taken back. Yeah, that's hard.
Yeah, and I didn't really ever understand. As much as I've tried to verbally support them, they do not want to talk to me about any of it. They only ever speak to my wife.
Interesting.
So, and I can't really explain that. The best explanation I've come up with around them not wanting to see me wearing stuff is that for them, I think it is still a little bit of a sexual interest.
Okay, yeah.
And I think maybe they associate it with purely that, and think, maybe let's not. I mean, nobody wants to see their parents doing anything remotely.
I mean, I do. I'm just kidding. No, no, that makes total sense. I mean, it's the way a lot of people start off like that is it's a purely sexual
Mhm.
thing. So if he associates that with like you and sex, so I could totally see him not wanting to be around you, like when you're dressed up or presenting or whatever. So yeah, that makes total sense. Hmm.
But it was difficult. Um, so I kind of went on a bit of a pause for a while. Um, Following that, I kind of had a bit of a resurgence of um, I have this war of body dysmorphia and gender dysphoria, and I
Mm-hmm.
can never quite understand or identify whether it's one or the other. Probably it's always a mix. But
I
it,
was gonna say it's probably a mix.
yeah, my and some of my body hair was getting really getting me down. I have naturally I have very coarse leg hair, chest hair. My beard is quite dark naturally and thick.
Mm-hmm.
So I got like I tried to epilate.
Oh
Um,
yeah, I just got one of those.
that's yeah, not cool. No, I
You
mean
hear
like
noise, and I'm like, I know, because I just experienced that the other day with my legs. I did that. It looked like I had a rash on my legs.
yeah, it is the worst. Like the first epilation run, it is the absolute worst thing in the world. I'm sure waxing. I don't know. I think like being slayed alive is quite similar to the feeling of epilating for the first time. Um, but then I got like a home IPL device,
Okay.
uh, which did absolutely nothing to any of my hair whatsoever. Just far
Oh
too
no.
weak, I think.
Oh no.
And I like worked daily for like 3 months on it, and it did zero.
Mm.
Um, so I had to kind of resort to just I have a Philips one blade razor, which doesn't entirely shave, but gets to about half a millimeter of growth. So maybe that's a
Is that one of
30
those like
second
neon
difference.
green ones?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
It's
I've
kind
got
of got a
some of those.
rectangular head on it, and you can cut both
Mm-hmm.
ways and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that got me a reasonably smooth feeling without the ingrowns that shaving always gives me, right? So it felt pretty good for a while. Um,
For a while. Okay.
yeah, for a while. Um, I guess like during this, I was dealing with a chronic illness
Mm.
um, and we were planning a house move, which fell through, and then we we were 2 weeks away, and we sold all our furniture, um, and then the house move fell through, and we packed most of the house up and everything. So we
Oh
then lived
no.
in boxes and stuff, and a mattress on the floor, and it was really difficult. It was a reasonably long distance move,
Mm,
um,
okay.
so
Okay.
that was pretty tough. Um, and we moved into rented accommodation for the first time since we were students. Um, and it didn't work out, and we moved back to roughly a similar region about 11 months later.
Oh
Um,
dang.
yeah, so two moves inside of a calendar year
That's tough. That's a
was
lot of
pretty tough.
work.
Yeah. So like everything that's kind of going on now, maybe as a result of all of that,
Mm-hmm.
I guess. But one of the positives of that time, we went into COVID, went into lockdown, and I found a new trans support group based in the city that I was moving to, but
Mm-hmm.
who during COVID had started online meetings, audio
Mm-hmm.
only support calls, and I started chatting with those guys. There's only like two or three actually showed up for the calls, but I connected really well with two of them. The organizer, although she always fights the label organizer. She thinks it's everybody's group and everything, but she is the heart and soul of it. Um, and they were just brilliant. Really, really. I found I've heard it said on the podcast already. Like I found my tribe with these people.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's pretty important.
really, really cool in a way that I didn't in the support group where I was living and now live again. That was exclusively transitioning people, and it was very angst driven and political. They were, for absolutely brilliant reasons, they were all very political and needed to be activist and very out and very it just didn't feel like a very relevant space for me, probably my own issues going to the fore, but I didn't feel like I belonged in the group.
But they accepted you in the group?
It's a good question. I couldn't really answer that like in a fair way. I probably didn't give it enough sessions. I probably went to 5 or 6.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I made a couple of good connections with people, but one of these was very much not like the others, So, and I wasn't able to dress fully femme or do makeup. I didn't have a wig, and I just felt uncomfortable. But that's probably me in my own skin. But the new group was awesome, and I was just desperate to move house and move down there and get out to a group. And eventually that did happen. I spent like 5 hours getting ready. I think I had to redo my beard cover, and I just re-listened to my podcast, and I don't think I've got any better with that since. But yeah, like 5 hours trying to do the makeup and then touching it up because it had already started wearing off. And actually, I remember getting there like half an hour early and sitting in the car park, and I recorded a voice message to Giselle. And I was recording this message about how I was feeling, and I said, I'll check in later. I was talking about what I was wearing, what I'd chosen to wear, and all of those things. And I was an absolute bundle of nerves.
Did you send it to
No,
her?
no, because I neglected to follow up on the way out, which was my plan.
Okay.
And
Do you
I
still
think I
have the
deleted it.
message? Oh, okay. I was gonna say,
I
if you
don't
still
know.
had it, if you still have it and you find it, like send it to me, and I'll like tack it on the end of this episode. I think that'd be
Okay.
so cool to add on if you have it.
I'll check. But I had a feeling it was lost between phone changes, but I'll check. But I was so excited. And I went in. So I went like fully femme, as femme as I possibly could be, within my own ability. And then everybody else at the group for a number of weeks were very similar. So I think I felt a little bit of internalized pressure to be as femme as I possibly could be. And that has placed quite a lot of pressure on myself and my makeup skills, such as they are, and presentation and everything. So I was going through all my favorite outfits every 2 weeks when we were meeting, and really, really enjoyed being there. And one of my closest friends that I've made there, I don't know if she's going to listen, but it's Sasha.
Hope so.
She would be she had to go visit family away from the city, and she would be coming back kind of in the afternoon before the evening meeting. And so we arranged to meet out in public at a Starbucks. So that meant I was shifting my preparation time even earlier to get ready. So that was fun. And we started just kind of exploring being more out. And I loved it. you know. I felt really safe with her. She tends to dress very gender fluid, ambiguous.
Mhm.
And, you know, she's just got this fabulous look, that she's a wonderful like crop of slightly graying hair that she can just turn from masculine into feminine. Like it's just amazing. She just needs a little bit of eyeliner and mascara, and she suddenly passes. It's she's terrific. Um, but yeah, so she and I would meet up, and then there's the amazing gay bar in the city as well, and we started going there. It was my first time in a gay bar, um, and we got so much acceptance there. The bartender is a trans woman, um,
Oh, nice.
and she she was a customer turned employee because it was such a fun, safe space for her.
Mhm.
So there was a real kinship there. We met some one night. We met some a lesbian couple, and they were just the most affirming, supportive people. Um, you know, saying how great we looked and um, how great it was that we were there and things. So loved it.
Gotta,
Absolutely
gotta
loved
be
it.
it's gotta be a huge confidence boost.
Yeah, and also I started to get really, I guess, hooked on that feeling of affirmation, that
Mhm.
acceptance that it's okay to be who we are,
Mhm.
even in a tiny little safe space like that. It felt good, you know. Um, uh, and then I heard about this drag race watch party for the Drag Race UK,
Uh-oh.
that was in the city. So we went to that, and man alive, that was awesome. Two drag queens leading it, two local drag queens, and they
Fun.
would do performances afterwards themselves. They had a sort of rolling cast of great, you know, very very different performers. Uh, the drag queen leading it was Is a Mood, and one of my favorites there was uh, um, Manny Quinn. Manny Quinn. Uh,
Mannequin.
yeah, she's tremendous, and Fifi Versace as well. She's brilliant. They've all been like really great people. Um, so I'd said to my friend Sasha, she said, "What do I wear? You know, what kind of vibe is in it?" I said, "However, like extreme you want to dress, you will not be the most extreme person there. It
Mhm.
is
Mhm.
right. It's a student city, so there were, you know, club kids looks, there were gender F looks, completely mixed up, super slutty. It was, you know, absolutely every color of the rainbow. So much fun. The only difficult thing was walking after it, walking out and going into an underground car park afterwards to get home. So
Uh-oh.
a little bit nervous. And so like a lot of my pictures on Instagram are from my times out, especially if my face is showing, or from my times
Mhm.
out there and at my support group. Um, so yeah, I guess that stuff really helped me feel more affirmed. Um, and I've I've very much moved away from the identifying as a cross-dresser,
Mhm.
and more securely in a um, non-binary kind of gender blend identity. So like I would attend my group as my as the same sounding name as my boy name, but it was spelt differently.
Mhm.
Very similar to your Billie IE
Yeah.
ending. You know, that's
Yeah.
that's what I did with my name. Because I never felt like somebody different. I felt like myself, and again, that makes me stand out quite a lot. Like in everybody I meet, they all go
Mhm.
for a completely different name. Um,
Mhm.
so, but yeah, for me, it was always just about expressing myself truly. And I look back and I think I have always wanted wanted a mix of masculine and feminine everything. So interests, toys when I was a kid. I didn't just stay on the boy side. I would go and have a look around all the pink section with all the girly stuff. I had My Little Pony as a kid. I had loads of soft toys. But and funny enough, I had a lot of kind of Lego, but that's never been something I've associated being gendered until Lego bring out a girly version of Lego, and I think that's kind of weird.
Anybody can do Lego.
Yeah, but I've always had this kind of real mix in everything, and it's not just about clothes. And I find like cross-dressing is almost, to me, it almost feels degrading. It almost feels retrograde. I feel like if what I said in my first podcast, like I don't want cross-dressing to exist anymore. I just want it to be dressing. Just wear what you want, then cross-dressing is almost an anathema to that, in a sense, in the term. And then at the same time, I don't particularly like non-binary because it feels quite negative. And it's almost defining something by its lack of definition. And a non-binary becomes binary of itself. But so I don't know. NB's quite cool, and I quite like gender blend as an identity. So
whatever feels right, go for that.
Yeah. But so yeah, I also started getting a laser hair removal.
From a professional, not the
from a professional. Yeah. So I use like the IPL stuff, which is like a gel, and then it gradually heats up to the point where you can't take it anymore. And I did that, and the initial results from like 2 sessions were really good in terms of growth rate. But it was a bit of a pain. It took a long time and it was expensive. So I went to this other place, which was a real laser. It's like one shot everywhere. And you can smell the hair burning.
That's how mine is.
And every so often it was like they'd do a whole body for £200 offer.
Oh dang.
Which was cool. But obviously they're always trying to push you to go for kind of 10 or 20 session groups, but I've never managed to stop buying dresses enough to afford to plan long term like that. And we were always cognizant that we were going to be moving house again, didn't want to commit to a certain center. So I guess things kind of stalled in terms of progress on the hair. And then recently I've kind of gone back to using epilating, and I gritted my teeth through the first session. But ever since, following laser, epilating is actually a lot easier. And the hair is really, really weak, grows back very patchy and thin. I think it's probably a happy place now. I don't get as red and sore afterwards. And so that's cool. I'm feeling it a bit at the moment.
Less chicken skin. Yeah, mine gets really spotty, and it looks like chicken skin or a rash or something. It's ugh.
The pain though of laser on the face is out of this world. Does it still hurt you? Are you still doing sessions? Did you say you're still doing sessions? I did.
No,
I've done 2 on the face.
2, okay.
And I'm not sure.
So I've done 4. I have a 5th one coming up next month. But like for me, it like really hurt around my chin.
Okay.
Like the kind of the bony areas.
Right.
And then like my Adam's apple area. But like only the first session. After the second, third, fourth session, it hasn't been that bad at all.
Okay.
It was upper lip for me. Yeah, the upper lip did hurt. The upper lip did hurt. It has gotten better. That has gotten better. For me, it was just like a rubber band snap. Just a...
Yeah.
But your mileage may vary. And yours obviously did.
for sure, for sure. But actually, um, it had quite dramatic results on my beard area. So
Hmm.
I have various white and grey hairs because I'm so old,
Oh, I know.
um,
I got them on my.
or I've lived such a stressful life. I don't know. But then I met a colleague who I've worked with for years, but very rarely seen, and she was like, "You look really different. You look really like fresh," and I don't know quite how to explain it, and I can only imagine it's because all of this isn't really dark, all around
Hmm.
here. So, gesticulating towards my face. But yeah, uh, I guess that's cool. I've kind of had various beauty treatments at different times. So like one was it that Christmas, or I think it was 2020 Christmas. I went and got my nails done, um, and so I was wearing nail polish the whole Christmas time.
Your
Um,
fingernails?
both, uh,
Both. Okay. The
the
full
full
Monty.
thing, yeah. Um, and I've had my lashes lifted a couple of times, which I
What's
love.
that like? What's that
It's
like?
really cool. Yeah. So I don't know. I've got it. I've got it at the moment, and I hide behind my glasses. But I don't know if
I
you can
can't. I
see.
can't see.
But
I
it
can't
kind
see
of
anything.
it makes me feel good in the mirror, because it's just a little bit of femininity. Um, Normally my lashes kind of do this like a cow, like really uh, pointing downwards.
Yeah. Uh,
Um, but yeah, they
what's the process like on that?
you lie in a bed, you close your eyes, and
Nice.
depending on the specialist, they might. So often they will tape down your lower lashes so they don't get confused with the upper lashes and they don't
Hmm.
accidentally turn the wrong ones the wrong way. And then they might tape your eyelid down. Then they put like a mold on, and I guess it's like a perming solution. It smells like a perming solution. Um, Train the hairs up in the right place, apply more lotion, wait. So it's very peaceful unless they've chosen some awful radio station to listen to. Um, and and then recently I got them dyed as well, so tinted, so they really stand out. It's like wearing a light coat of mascara and a really good curling uh,
Okay.
job, but it lasts 5 or 6 weeks.
Oh
Um,
wow.
so it's really quite reasonably priced for a long thing. I got it done because I had this block where I would be going on a family holiday followed by a trip for work where I couldn't really do anything, any outlet for femininity. So I did it so that, when I look in the mirror, when I wash my face or whatever, um, I just feel that little bit um, of pleasure
Hmm.
that way. Yeah, so I kind of done all those things. It's been generally a lot of fun, but I think recently things have been a little bit difficult. So I gained some weight over that sort of stressful 12 months. Um, I've always been big and um, never. Well, there was one point where I got within like 5 pounds of my goal before a holiday, and then promptly ate myself stupid, and so I had like a
Oh,
2 week period my entire life where I was almost happy. Um,
too much baklava.
yeah, that's right. All kinds. Yeah, I mean Greek food. Just can't turn it away. Um, so, and that was a few years ago now, but yeah, I'm kind of at my biggest again, and I feel horrid. Um, I don't want to put on some of my favorite clothes because I don't want to bust out of them or stretch them. So I've been feeling in a really negative kind of space, um, and yeah, I tried to kind of force myself into better situations. So when I moved up, I kind of left my friendship and support group behind.
Mm.
Um, haven't really found any replacement yet, although I still talk to them every couple of weeks. I recently met up with Sasha, as I happened to be near where she lives. And it was great to see her again. So we stay in touch a lot, but I just don't get to dress up and go out so much. I accidentally came out to my best friend.
Oh, how'd that go?
It was so weird. We were just having a kind of quarterly call, and he is a doctor, and he has become gradually more and more conservative as he's got older and richer. I don't know if that tracks in the US, but yeah, as he's got more comfortable.
Yeah, I see so.
I know you have a fair.
My best friend was like that.
Yeah,
or my old best friend, or however you look at it.
It's weird. It's, you know, as he's moved in more accomplished professional circles, as he has lived with his fairly upper class wife longer and longer, he's almost become someone it's very difficult to have a conversation with, because we just operate in completely different planes. I'm very liberal, so which doesn't go down well. You know, my wife and I are both very liberal, but her family are all very conservative. Anyway, so we're chatting away, and I don't know how, but the subject of trans rights came up, and he expressed some bemusement, I guess is the right way to put it. About, it's like, what are trans people complaining about? What hardship are any of them suffering? And so I got a little bit riled by that, you know, and I started talking, and the likes of yourself and Giselle and my friend Lynn and Sasha have really given me a lot of tools, you know, to be able to converse with someone, even at he's a very accomplished, very cerebral level, but I've been able to have a lot of learning and development in my knowledge, so I can almost kind of start to compete with him on this subject alone, right? So we're talking about it, and he said something to the effect of, you know, in the medical field, he said you would have to be, I think he said you'd have to be batshit crazy to go anywhere near trans medicine. And I was like, why? What is that about? And he said, because it is career ending if you make the slightest mistake, and everybody knows this. He said, you approve a procedure on someone that later regrets it, or you deny someone a procedure that wants it, and it's instant cancelled. And the fear factor of being involved in that kind of thing, he said, only drives the very most committed or the most ostracized already medical professionals. And this was news to me, and started to explain why there's such a terrible waiting list for trans, even trans consultation appointments. So like in the UK, there's pretty much two centres, one in Brighton on the southwest and one in Edinburgh in Scotland, and those are the only two GRC clinics. To get a referral to a doctor who can then refer you, if they approve, to those two clinics, there's a waiting list of 2 to 3 years just to get the very first appointment here. We don't have private medical, so even for people who can pay, there just isn't the ability to top up. You know, the NHS, for all its amazing equality and the ability for everybody, it's free at the point of service for everyone, and it's awesome for that, for the vast majority of things, especially if you were at threat of bleeding or dying or contracting cancer. It's amazing. But for low level, for so-called non-essential stuff, It's really, really tough. So we were talking all about that, and he said every trans person he's ever met has, as a professional, has some sort of mental health issue. And he said everyone he's ever met has a learning difficulty of some description. And I said, what on earth are you talking about?
Okay.
That's just what?
Yeah. Okay. Sure.
I said there may be an overrepresentation of mental health problems in the trans community versus non-trans community, cis, but that is usually as a result of having to deal with the trans issues.
Yeah, trans stuff
right.
is kind of difficult to deal with sometimes. For a lot
And
of
I
people,
said,
a lot of times.
yeah, I said, people kill themselves in that waiting time regularly here in the UK. It is suicide prevention, is trans access to medicine, effectively. And he kind of got a little bit frustrated, and he said, where do you get all this from? Where are all these trans people that you're referencing? How do you know it? Because he was basically saying, I'm talking rubbish. I don't really know what I'm talking about. And I hit this wall in the conversation. I'm like, okay, I wasn't prepared for this whatsoever. And I said, mate, you are my very best friend in the world, but you don't know that I am non-binary, and I have been attending trans support groups on and off for a couple of years. So that's where I meet all these trans people. That's where I interact. And he was a little bit taken aback. He wasn't negative at all, and he just was almost on like an academic level. He was, oh, you caught me out. He said, you've snuck around me with more knowledge, It's like, oh, that's cheating. It's almost like we both started playing a game, and I knew the rules ahead and I'd practiced. That was his kind of his feeling. So I kind of, it was towards the end of our call, and we arranged that we'd have another one, and we'd try and get together in person again. But we haven't really talked about it since. He wasn't negative. He wasn't like super supportive. He didn't say anything like, yeah, of course you are, or no way. It was just quite say quite an intellectual discussion and thing. So I really didn't expect that to happen at all. So
And how long ago was that?
I want to say 4 months, something like that.
Okay, 4 months.
Yeah, we're about due our next call, so I don't know if that'll come up.
You should bring it up.
Yeah, maybe.
If he doesn't, you should bring it up.
Yeah. I think right now though I'm in a bad place, so I don't know. So like I one of the drag queens that I met down where I moved for a short while, she happened to move up to my region, where she's originally from, and she started this karaoke night, drag queen karaoke, and she wanted some support for her first night. So I went out there, and it was I didn't know what I was going into, what kind of club I was going to, so I didn't dress up, and it was in the Northeast. It's called a working men's club. I don't know. It would have the look and feel, I guess, of like a dive bar in the States.
Okay.
But very, it's a very poor area. Very. It's like ex-mining communities up in the region. The working men's part of it is generally something of a misnomer, because it tends to be communities that have very high unemployment, actually. So it's not quite a pub, it's not quite a club. It's kind of a social room with alcohol served, but only for a very specific type of drinker. I got in. I was very relieved I hadn't dressed up. So like the drag queen, the only person anything other than cisgender presenting. Yeah, quite a toxic kind of environment. And also I felt horrible about myself. I felt like I didn't want the drag to talk to and know the drag queen in boy mode myself. I didn't want to be drab. But I also didn't want to be in that place dressed up. It was, yeah, I was very uncomfortable. So I stayed for the night. I told her she was great, and she was. And then I sort of hastily headed to the exit and came back home. I wasn't going to repeat that. And then it was Pride season, and I thought, well, if I can be myself anywhere, hopefully that's Pride. I'd never attended a Pride before, and I picked like one of the smaller cities or sort of medium-sized town for my first Pride, because I don't like crowds. I'm really a little bit agoraphobic, I guess. So I decided that I would dress as I do at home, which is femme clothes and no face. And I wanted to represent non-binary, because that's how I was feeling, and I wanted to, in a way, visually represent non-binary. So I wore this white and black dress. I had a cap on that had a yellow and white band on it, and I had a purple drawstring bag on my back. So the colors of non-binary. And I thought, okay, that's kind of quite subtle. There's nothing subtle about the fact that, I haven't put any makeup on or anything, but yeah, I felt relatively confident going out. I had to go out because it's on a new place. It's the front driveway is really visible, so I had to go out in boy mode and change in the car park. And I snagged my tights, my pantyhose in the car just as I got them on, and I was like really, really angry about it.
That happens every time. Every time.
And I was wandering around Pride on my own. I didn't because I haven't really got any friends at where I live. And I felt pretty good. I felt fairly anonymous. I watched a little bit of the march. I didn't take part in the march. And then the first interaction I had was with a trans woman who was probably 60 plus, who looked me up and down and said to me, as an opening statement, opening gambit, said to me, "You could have had a bloody shave, couldn't you?" which and then she sort of looked at me and my reaction, and I said something like, "Well, you look great," and she said, "Oh, you're not trans?" And I said, "No, non-binary." And she's like, "Okay," and walked off. No apology or anything, and it was just like tremendously rude and blunt. And I had a moment of real kind of upset about that, and then I quickly kind of decided, well, that's her own issue, that's her own projection. She needs to be fully femme to qualify in her own mind, and I don't know, maybe I'm a threat to that. It was quite hot on the day, so I went to the shopping mall and wandered around. Like, you have Primark in the States?
No, I don't know what that is.
So it's a fairly fast fashion type shop. And they've started doing some better, like recycled material clothes, and they've started being a bit better about it. And I just had a wander around there. It's nice to pick up a few kind of cheap items, or what have we. Got some really weird looks. Staff were very supportive. Picked up a few things. Went back to Pride. Met a gay guy who was dressed in very, very short shorts and thigh-length patent boots. It looked amazing, was having a wonderful time. I met a guy dressed as a dog. Um, yeah, it was all kinds of everything. And I met a couple of drag queens, one of whom is a non-binary drag queen. Um, and I talked to them about any kind of social meetups in the area, and she was like, "Nope, there's
Oh
absolutely
no.
nothing." She said that the problem is with non-binary people is that we generally stay at home and don't really like other people, and like
Mm-hmm.
the Venn diagram of extreme introvert and non-binary is almost an eclipse. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so I kind of, yeah, okay, fair enough. So yeah, still I wasn't really able to pick up any kind of new social groups or links from that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it was a bit of a miss, I guess, going, but it was fun still. There was a Queen tribute band, a Dua Lipa tribute act. They were brilliant. It was, yeah, a lot of fun. But I'd kind of really had enough by sort of late afternoon. Um, and I don't know if all of these things have kind of triggered this in me, but I've just recently had this real crash. This I cannot lose weight right now. I don't know what it is. Um, and I'm struggling hugely to feel good in the mirror in anything.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and you know, I just don't know if this is a phase. Um, I've One of the recent guests on the podcast said that Brianna said, I think that she's tired of dressing, tired of not presenting how she feels.
Mm-hmm.
And a guest prior said something about dressing as a boy, and it hit me like really hard, and it really verbalized for me. I think I am now dressing as a boy, begrudgingly, rather than as I want to and feel
Mm-hmm.
like I am inside, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then I get really scared of that. Am I on a unstoppable, slippery slope to somewhere that I can't and don't want to go personally, which is transition? Is it inevitable? Is it out of my control? Is the kind of panic that's been setting in?
What's your fear about, or what do you
My
think your fear
fear,
is with transitioning? If
um,
that's the end result or whatever. If you enjoyed or related to Sophia's story and would like to share your own, or would like to connect with myself, Giselle, or many of the other previous CrossYAAS guests, or the listeners, you can find us on the CrossYAAS Confidential Discord, which can be found on the CrossYAASPodcast.com website. Also, if you enjoy this episode, please share it with your friends. Chances are they might enjoy it too. There might be something in there that really speaks to them. And remember, be yourself. Bye. Oh, and I have a little extra bonus for today's episode. Sophia was able to locate that audio file that she was going to send to Giselle when she was so nervous about coming out and being visible. So I'd really love to share that with you. Please enjoy.
Hi Giselle, this is Sophia here, otherwise known as on your wonderful podcast. I did an interview as Stiletto Shoe, my Reddit handle. I wanted to just record my thoughts down for you as I take a pretty big step tonight. I'm sitting outside a community centre because I'm about to go to my brand new cross-dresser support group. It's a trans support group, but I think it's mostly made up of cross-dressers, and I've only been to the virtual meetings and they've only been audio. So I've been a bag of nerves for the last week or so as I prepare to do this. I'll be in a mask, I believe, and I'll be hiding behind that a little bit. But I've been stressing like you wouldn't believe to find out what to wear, and how to do my makeup, which is not cool. I'm very underconfident, but I'm not being able to get any help with that because here I am doing this is our first thing we can do out of lockdown because it's a support group, but I'd love to be able to go to a beauty parlour beforehand and kind of get glammed up properly, really. So what I settled on, I don't quite know the vibe of the place. I think it's kind of mostly quite sensible wear, which isn't exactly my aesthetic, but there you go. So I'm wearing an almost knee-length kind of bodycon pink dress with black lace embroidery. I have a black long sleeve top underneath, just to cover up my arms. I'm wearing a purple bra and French panty set, which I am kind of excited about. And they because they're lace, they make the tucks so easy. I've got an absolute ton of shapewear on, so I can barely breathe. Obviously pantyhose over my legs. I've got a little leather jacket and some jewellery on, and my beautiful Raquel Welch wig. I don't know if I did my makeup particularly well, but like I say, I'm going to hide. I'm really excited. My throat's really dry. I'm a little bit quaky. One of the ladies at the group has just waved to me from the front window. As she's getting ready, so I can't sit here any longer. I will try and check in afterwards, because I really regret my first time out not letting you know how that went. Anyway, wish me luck. Bye.
I'm not here to diagnose or treat anything. I'm just here to share my story, have others come on the podcast to share their story, to help you learn about the world of cross-dressing, sexuality, and gender a bit more.